Welcome to part 1.5 of a series of videos talking about a web development stack based on GraphQL and ReactJS. In part 1, I discussed the components of the stack, which include Postgres, Next, Express.js, Apollo GraphQL server and client, ReactJS, and Formik. During the course of part 1, I created a GraphQL server with a database backend and demonstrated how to define and execute a query to return the list of to-dos. At the end of part 1, I said that in part 2, we would move on to creating a ReactJS application that would use the GraphQL API and display a list of to-dos on the screen. But before I do, there's a couple more points I want to cover with respect to GraphQL server. These points are type resolvers and mutations. We'll start off looking at type resolvers. Type resolvers describe how the server resolves each property in a type, how to handle nested types. We'll introduce an entity to our model project and add it to the database and then integrate it with the to-do type. Finally, we'll discuss mutations and the definitions in the schema. I'll explain the syntax for mutation resolvers and show how we can add mutations for to-dos and projects. If you don't have the code from the first part of this series, then go watch part 1 now. The link is at the top right hand or in the description. If you don't want to, don't worry. The code here is basic enough and you should easily be able to understand just by watching. So let's get started. So before we can start talking about nested resolvers and mutations, we need to make our model a little bit more complex so we can add some relationships to it. So in this instance, I'm going to introduce the concept of a project, and a project is used to group together to-dos. As always, the first thing I do is I start with the schema. So I'm going to say type is project. Like the others, it has an ID, string, and also optionally it may have to-do objects. So I'm going to say to-dos, and I can reuse a type that I've already defined. So I can say I want to use a string of to-do objects. And likewise, in a to-do, I'd like to know the associated project. So I'm going to say it has a project of type project. The next thing is I need to set up migrations. So I'm going to set up a migration to define a new table in my database. And I'll grab one I created earlier. Just like before, I'm using Next functionality, which allows me to do migration up, and it also gives me the ability to provide a down function, which is when you want to roll back a migration. So if I make a mistake, I can just roll back the last migration, fix the migration file, and then reapply it. So like before, I'm doing a create table to create a brand new table called project, and that just has an ID and a title. But I'm also grabbing a reference to the to-do table and saying I would like to create a field called project ID, and that is actually going to be used to reference a record in the project table. Also, we created some seed data before, so let's go and update the seed data, shall we? So looking back in here, I have to do, and I want to change my seed data. So I've made a slight modification now, so I'm saying clear things down, then generate a project ID, insert a new project into the database, then when I create my to-dos, assign the project ID in there. So now I have a relationship where I have one project that has two to-dos. And the last step that I always forget to do is yarn next migrate latest to apply, or rather the yarn next migrate latest to apply my new schema, and yarn next seed run to insert the data. So I now have a database with 2 tables in it, a total of 3 records. So I'm ready to go and start my server up and I'm ready to actually try and use that. I've added my table, I've updated the schema, we now have the idea of projects. Let's try and see if we can actually see a project in the query. So I've refreshed my browser and pulled in the latest schema, and it now knows that I have a project object. And because it's an object and not just a plain type like a string, I have to tell it what parts of the project I'm interested in. So I want to bring in the title. And it doesn't work. Reason being is the default resolver knows how to just grab and copy fields. So it grabs the ID field and the title field. But when it gets to the project, the next table has a project ID field, not a project field. And also the resolver doesn't know that a to-do is related to a project using the project ID. So in this instance, you have to write your own resolver, and that's what we're going to do next. So going back to our GraphQL code, we had a folder called query. We're going to create a new one called resolvers, which is where I like to keep all my different type resolvers. And I'm going to create one for to do. The way it works is that you need to provide a object that is returned to the user, and you need to describe how to fetch each of the different properties in the object. So I'll talk through what I'm going to do here, and let's bring up the schema. Put that to the right. Okay, so we know that we need to return back an ID, not an IDDB cursor, just an ID, a title, if something's complete or not, and the project data. Now, each of these fields needs its own function that acts as a resolver. And if you remember when we went to look at to-dos, do we have one here? Yeah. When we were looking at to-do and to-dos, we had a function signature here that I described and said the second parameter here are the parameters that are sent to the resolver, and the first parameter here that we weren't interested in is something called the parent, or think of it as the source. So we need to provide a function, and we need to take the source, which is the next data, I'll often refer to as a parent, and we need to return the value that the user wants to see. And the way a default resolver works is it just asks the parent for the value of the field name, like so. So we're going to say, right, when I want the ID, I just want to use the ID in the next record. When I want the title, I want the same thing. When I want to provide complete, I'm going to do the same thing there. And the tricky bit is going to be project, because there is no project in the database table. There's just a project ID. In this instance, what I want to do is I actually want to tell it that I want to fetch the project from the database. So what I'm going to say, I need to use next to go and get that data. And I'm going to say, when a person asks for a project, what they really mean is they would like the project record, where the ID for that project record is the project ID in the to-do table, and there's only ever going to be one. So all it does, it just uses the project ID and fetches the project record and returns that. Now when we go back to our query, what happens? Actually, there's one last step. So we've got our to-do, we've described how that works. I need to wire it into my resolvers object. So I'm going to say const to-do equals require resolvers to-do. So we've added our to-do resolver into that map the same way that it's in the schema. So we have the query object that we put into the schema. We have a to-do object now in that schema. Same thing, so. And that should be it. So we've now told it to go and use this. So what happens when we try the query? So we go back to when we had earlier. I went to get the project, and I'd like to know its title. And now I get the project. And it really is that simple. Now, the one thing to remember is that it'll only run the functions, the resolvers, for the fields that you ask for. So if you had a really big type here that was related to like 7 or 8 different tables, it's not going to go and run the next queries for each of those. It's only going to run the next queries for the ones that you ask for. So if you only ask for one, it'll only do one database query. If you take a look at the schema file that we created back in part 1, we talked about queries and how we write query resolvers. And if you look there, you'll see that we have to do that accepts parameters and to-dos. So here to do accepts an ID and returns back a to-do object. Below that, we created the schema definitions for mutations, but we didn't actually populate them. So if you take a look at the mutation definitions there, they look remarkably similar to the signature we have there for to do. And that's because they work using the same mechanism. A mutation is just a function that does what you want it to do. And the mutation accepts the data as parameters to that function call. So in this instance, we say we would like to add a to-do, and the only required field when you add a to-do is the title, because currently we haven't added in support for projects. And within this, we're saying you only provide the title. We're going to assume that it's not complete, and we're going to generate the ID. And when we do an update, it's slightly different, because in that instance, we're saying, okay, when you do an update, you need to provide the ID. You may be changing the title, you may be changing the complete, and we're always going to return back to do. We're going to make a slight change here for projects, because we're now going to say that we got support in there for projects. So if I look quickly at my notes, I'm going to look at my schema, and I have add to do, and I can give it a project. So let's change add to do to say that you can optionally provide project. And when I update a to do, I'm going to optionally let people update the project. Okay, so it's the same as before. I just added in the project stuff that we needed. So what I'm going to do now is actually write the mutation. So the easiest one is going to be the mutation to add a to do. So back to my GraphQL folder, I'll create a new one for mutations. Or mutation, I'm going to call it, because I'm going to follow the naming scheme here. And I want to add a mutation for add to do. And I'm going to add another one for that. So I'm just bear with me for 1 second. So add to do JS, and I write another one for update to do.js. And I'm going to use an index file, just like I did in the query folder, to bring everything together. So my add to do is that it's really just a function. That's all it is. So in Blue Peter style, I've got one I created earlier. So just like the query that we use for getting the to do, my function signature uses the second thing at center, which has got all the arguments and parameters. And I'm using an asynchronous signature here because I want to wait for something to happen before I go ahead onto the next step. So to add a to-do, I'm going to generate a new to-do, and this is the same syntax as I used in my seed data. And I'm then going to create an object which is a mixture of that ID and the arguments that have been set in. So rather than changing the original object, which is always bad, I'm going to create a new object out of the two joined together, and then same syntax as the seed file. I'm going to go and do an insert into my to-do table. I'm going to await that because Next supports promises and I want to wait for it to finish. And then when it's all done, I'm going to return this back to the user. An update is similar. And pull that up. My update is very similar. This instance, I'm going to use the update command instead. So I'm going to look for... Why don't I just pass this in? Yeah, let's just do this. I don't need to spread it. It's not going to mutate it. So I'm going to say update a to-do table where the ID is equal to X. Actually, yeah, that's fine. And then once that's done, I'm actually going to go and refetch the record and send it back. This may be in case the server does some processing, which it isn't. This is just the pattern I follow when I'm writing these things. And then in my index file, I need to create an index file that joins all this stuff together. So const add to do equals require to do. Spelled wrong. You always notice something wrong when autocomplete doesn't. Update to do equals require. See, this time I spelled it right. And then my mutations object has add to do, update to do. I know there's better ways to lay out, or there's shorter ways to lay this out, but this is, I find this to be more readable. Just when things start to get bigger, then splitting it out like this just gets easier to manage. So we've got our mutations, and we need to add them into our reducer map, hash key, whatever you want to call it. What did I call it there? Yeah, mutation, mutation, mutation. And I know there's people out there who, like me, I always sort everything alphabetically, and right now that part of my brain is screaming out that it's wrong, and I'd fail a pull request. But anyway, let's try and see if this works. So we're going to create a new query, and this time I'm going to say mutation instead of query. I'm going to do an add to do, title of thread, and once it's finished the mutation, I would like to know the ID of the new record, the title of the new record, and if it's complete or not. One gotcha that I forgot. In my mutation, I didn't give it a value for complete. So add to do, I need to say complete false. I always assumed that if you didn't put something in, then it would be false at a Boolean field, but that assumption is wrong. So I'll try again. There we go. Now I can add data in and I can get data back out. So that wraps it up for part 1.5. I do hope you found it useful. Feel free to comment below. I'm going to start working now on part 2. I'll show you how to use Create React App to create a React application, then add the dependencies we need, and how to pull in data via GraphQL and put it onto the screen, before then moving on to forms in a later part. So I hope to see you then. Thank you.